Hello everyone, I hope you're all having a fantastic day. Today I wanted to talk about figure collecting. I know, what a shock. This is going to be a lot more of a laid back video. There's just a few thoughts that I have had on my mind that I figured I would go ahead and share with all of you. The first thing is about how expensive figure collecting is. I have been feeling how expensive figure collecting is more recently. If you're not aware, America is in a recession, though the media will try to deny that. I've talked about how to budget before, and I'm starting off this video talking about this because I'm gonna get more into financial talk, I guess. Not that I'm like a financial advice guru or anything, but I think within figure collecting it's very relevant, and I think that it can be very daunting for newcomers who want to get into the hobby. I think a lot of people got into figure collecting during lockdown because no one was going out and doing stuff. People started collecting merch and figures from anime that they enjoyed. Makes sense. Since they can't go out and, you know, do whatever they would do in their normal lives, they're bringing stuff they enjoy into their home where, you know, they can have their little shrines of whatever. Because of that, a lot of people got into the hobby then versus us who have been in the hobby for quite some time. And I feel like when that happened is really when you started to see the problems I'm going to talk about come up more. I first need to go ahead and talk about myself before I talk about the community as a whole, what I see, so that you have a little bit of background on my personal take on, you know, figure collecting, the expensiveness of it, and how I'm able to do what I do here. So let's get into that. One of the big things with especially YouTubers, because I'm mainly just talking about YouTubers who collect anime figures, there might be misconceptions, and I say there might be because I had this misconception, or at least I judged these people right away. When I first saw my first figure collecting video, I was like, you unboxed a whole entire huge package of how many figures, and that cost you how much money? Assuming that a lot of these people had money. Again, at the time of the pandemic and all that crap, people probably did have a little bit of extra money because they weren't going out and spending it on much. But that wasn't sustainable in the long term, nor was it, I think, good for anyone who was, let's say, a teenager at the time, anyone who wasn't financially dealing with other things in their life where they had to have budgets because, you know, you have to pay rent. But one of the things that I think is important is to explain what goes on behind the scenes, and I personally wanted to explain to you all what goes on behind the scenes for me. I am not loaded. I don't have a lot of money. In fact, we are lower middle income, if not below that. And the way I am able to collect figures is that this is my only hobby. This is the only thing, other than band merch, outside of, you know, food and other essentials, that I spend money on. I don't get my nails done. I don't get my hair done. My makeup is mostly from the dollar store. If I'm buying clothes, it's from the thrift store, or I'm getting them for free from the receptionist I work with because we're the same size. And then I'll dye it to be the colors that I want and stuff like that. Generally, other than this hobby, we're not spending money. I also know some of you have commented on the cheapness of the figures that I do find, at least the ones that I find used that I get a good deal on, not necessarily pre-orders and stuff, obviously you can't really control that. But the ones that I find for a good price, some people are like, how did you do that? I've had a lot of practice. I have been trying to save money since I was literally in middle school, so like age, what, 11? Because I've had a job since I was that old. I was babysitting. There's nothing illegal going on. There was no, you know, child labor laws being broken. But yeah, I was making money since that time, so I learned very young how to deal with money and how to save money in order to buy things I wanted, and that has transferred very nicely into my adulthood. And that's one of the things that we'll get into in a second, where I kind of worry with the way that figure collecting went, specifically during, again, the pandemic and all that shit. I collect things as often as I collect things, but I unbox things very often, and the reason for that is, and I've mentioned this before, I actually have a hoard of things that I've bought before. I'm a very patient individual, so I keep them all just on standby, and I unbox them as I come up with ideas of what would go well to unbox together. And that's it. This year in total, other than my January pre-order, which I'm pretty sure was just 2 shirts and a Figma, I have only ordered 1 resin statue. That's it. 2 orders. And now, mind you, the end of the year is a little heavier for me, I guess, but still not very much. And when I see people do these huge unboxings, or even just more frequent unboxings, even I wonder, holy crap, how do you do that? The reason I'm bringing that up is because I think it's important to my final point of this discussion, which is the misconceptions can lead to reckless buying in others. It also can lead to addictions and things like that. I would say that if you are buying stuff that often, you might have a problem. If you are consuming plastic that often, you might actually have a little bit of an issue. And I'm not saying this in a bad way. I do think that a lot of people within the figure collecting community do probably have a screw or two loose upstairs, because why else would we be collecting things that we can't even use? I mean, at least with band merch, you can wear a t-shirt, you can fiddle around with a whip, you can scoop your cat shit with the pooper scooper. The point being, figures don't do anything. They just look pretty. And I will not say that, you know, it's a dumb hobby or anything. I mean, obviously, that would be a little hypocritical, don't you think? But I think it's important to recognize that if you're just getting things because they look kind of nice, and their nicety makes you happy, you might have a screw or two loose. And that's okay. I'm not excluding myself from that equation by any means. And the reason I mention that at all, and that I think that's important, is because on YouTube, there is a reward system in place by YouTube if you spend more money. Your video is more likely to get more traction if you spend more. And part of that's not YouTube's algorithm's fault. People are just more interested in watching videos if someone's dropped a huge amount of money. It's just the way our brains work, I guess. And hey, you know what? It is what it is. But when it comes to the collecting community as a whole, I think on YouTube, that really limits the community. And I'd hate for this community to be nothing more than everyone unboxing things all the time and not talking about anything beyond that, not talking about these issues or other things with collecting, because YouTube specifically pushes a certain kind of content that is nothing but reckless consumerism. Because I feel like at a certain point, you cross that threshold. And, you know, maybe that's what you do, and that's your life, and you can do it. I really don't care what you spend your money on. But when you have younger people who have never been into this community, all of a sudden flooding their rooms with collectibles in a very short amount of time, and I'm not throwing shade at anyone. I know that some people are going to have views of who I'm talking about in my head, and if you do, understand that the people that I may or may not be referencing, I have no ill will towards at all. But it's reckless, it's dumb, and it's something you're going to regret. And I don't want to point out who all I may or may not be talking about. A few examples do come to my mind, but I think you'll see that over time, if they haven't already, they start downsizing. And that's a normal thing. Downsizing your collection is a normal thing. Not everyone's like me and will hold on to the most busted figure on earth because I have some weird sentimental attachment to it. Because again, it's a few screws loose, right? But when newer people come in, we saw that reckless spending. We saw that reckless collecting. And YouTube awarded them for that. Pushing that sort of content to be what they deem most prominent, most popular, the way you figure collect. Now, obviously, people who have been figure collecting for a while, people who are older and have a few minds about them, not to diss all you teenagers, I'm sure plenty of you are smart too, and smart enough to see through this bullshit. But at the end of the day, this is something that happened and is still happening. And it's not realistic. That's why I brought up what I do. Because what I do is make it look unrealistic, but it is realistic. I hoard the stuff and then show you, and I can show you every week to try and keep up with the algorithm. Even the reason I started doing this figure collecting channel is specifically because, number one, I enjoyed the community and I wanted to be more involved, but also because I wanted to see if I could monetarily support my hobby by unboxing things I would have bought anyways. And I think it's important that we keep our minds about us when we are collecting and when we are watching these videos. One of the things that I just want to put at the end here that is probably, I'm probably gonna get a lot of heat for this one, but I want to put it out there because it's another thing that seems to be more okay since this collecting boom, this big collection boom. The collecting of figures that you don't know what they're from is absolutely insane to me. And I can see it nothing more than being a regret. If you know the series and haven't made it the whole way through, that's a different story. I'm not talking about that. I'm talking about the people who don't even know what series the person's from. And the reason I bring this up is because I somewhat made this mistake. I technically was playing Neptunia, but I was nowhere as interested as I should have been in order to buy my Neptunia figure. And if any of you have been around for a while, you know I have a Neptunia figure that I love, but I will not to this day call it anything other than a mistake. Because what are you doing? Spending that amount of money on something that doesn't have any other value to you other than it looks pretty. And I'm just gonna leave you with that. I think some people are going to really get annoyed with that and say, people can collect however they want. Absolutely. Absolutely. You can collect however you want. But that's another thing that I think was perpetuated through YouTube. You know, it's the people who were just buying to buy, or at least it came across that way, buying to buy. Oh, I like that figure, it's pretty. Throw some money at it. Look it, guys. It seems wrong to me. I'm not trying to go after anyone because there are quite a lot of people actually who are more prominent, we'll say, on the platform who do that. But to me, I can't get behind it. It's like owning CDs that you don't listen to because you like the album artwork. It's like wearing a band tee that you don't know what's on it. It doesn't make sense to me. And again, you could do whatever you want. It just, again, it pushes this thing into the community that I just personally do not understand. I think it's reckless, again, because you're just buying things even though you don't know even what they're from. I can't get behind it. I really can't. So that's what I wanted to, I guess, kind of rant about. I got a little sassy at the end. I apologize for that. I can be quite sassy at times. But I wanted to talk about the money issues within the community. I wanted to talk about how I personally do it and how, you know, I'm sure I'm not the only collector on this platform who does it in a specific way that it looks more consumer heavy than it is. Which is funny because I know my hoard is rather ridiculous, but understand that's been years of collecting. So just years of collecting and never unboxing anything ever. So yeah, maybe this is the pot calling the kettle black. I don't really know. I am curious to hear what you guys think though. I hope you all had a fantastic day and I will see y'all next time. Bye. I hit my back.